It's no secret. I have big dreams. They come in phases. I mean, kind of have to do it for yourself and always be on the lookout for the opportunities, but also when someone's trying to close the door in your face, make sure that you kind of put the hand up. The head of the agency came up to me and basically said, "Hi, Marissa, this is my assistant, Susie. Why don't you two ladies go have a cafecito while us men talk business?" I looked at my boss. He didn't say anything. He was just quiet. And it was in that moment that I said, okay, no one else is going to speak up for me. So I have to speak up for myself. We want to be a global sports platform. And so as we go global and expand globally, the future is becoming much more multicultural, driven by communities like the Latino community. Women are a big part of the sport. It all comes full circle.
Yes.
It all comes full circle.
Yes. Hey, Money Movers. Welcome to another exciting episode of Her Money Moves. We are here in Detroit, Michigan, live at the NFL draft. And I am here with an incredible guest at the HC3 launch, Marissa Solis. She is the Senior Vice President of Global Brand and Consumer Marketing for the NFL, okay? She is the top Latino in the entire NFL organization. Not top Latina, top Latino. Yes, she is the woman in charge, and just so excited for you to be here with our Money Moving audience. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's a super busy week. You've got fans coming in and so many things going on this week.
No, super excited to be here with you and just talk about a super important topic.
Yes. And I mean, you're a huge role model. You're like totally changing the game in this male dominated industry. Today, I'm actually...
I know. You're rocking the H-Town.
H-Town
Yes.
Texans jersey.
That's awesome.
We love our quarterback, CJ Stroud. And
CJ, was, I think, second pick last year in the NFL draft. So
yes.
The story of the Houston Texans started at the draft last year in Kansas City. So there'll be lots of good stories that started this one.
Yes. And then you're a Texan, right?
I am I grew up in South Texas. I'm originally from Mexico City and then came to this country at the age of 10 and grew up in the Rio Grande Valley. So Harlingen, Texas, if you know where that is.
I do. Yes. And so do our Money Movers. And then I understand you went on to Georgetown University. And I mean, can you share with us like how you ended up here with the NFL?
Yeah. I mean, never in a million years did I think I would ever be at the NFL. I mean, it's like a dream, and just a lot of twists and turns along the way. But I went to Georgetown University. I had a dream to be an ambassador. I wanted to, represent the U.S. and maybe go back to Latin America and, just be an ambassador. So I went to the School of Foreign Service, and that's what I studied. I studied international economics, and I was ready to go into the Foreign Service. And literally 2 weeks before graduating, my dean said to me, if you really want to be an ambassador, don't go into a career foreign service, because as a career person, only about 2% of career officials ever make it. He's like, you need to go out into the corporate world or the real world to make a name for yourself. Then one day you'll contribute to someone's campaign and then they'll make you an ambassador. And so, good dose of advice when I was young, and I followed his advice and ended up at Procter & Gamble in Latin America. So big Fortune 500 marketing company. And that was my first job. And I was just trying to make it, like he said, make a name for myself. And I found that way in the marketing world, even though I never studied it. It was just an opening that came for me early in my career.
Wow, outstanding. And then I think you were... After that, PepsiCo, is that correct?
Oh, no. I mean, so I have I spent about 3 years at Procter & Gamble in Latin America. I came back to school. I still had kind of that itch for, being involved in the public policy arena. So I studied public policy at the LBJ school at the University of Texas. So yes, I'm a Longhorn. And while there, I got involved in politics. So I was involved with a political firm called Public Strategies. We did a lot of campaigns in Mexico. So at the time, it was the presidential election in 2000, and I got involved in some Texas campaigns. So I was in politics for a little bit. But realized that it was tough, right? Being a Latina, that you don't have a pedigree, nobody knows you, you don't really have any financial means to donate, and so it's a hard world. So I decided to go back in the business world, worked for Deloitte Consulting for a while, and it was after that I went back into marketing at PepsiCo. So I spent, 18 years of my career at Frito-Lay North America, at Pepsi Beverages, just in a wonderful company doing marketing. And then it was after 18 years that I got the phone call one day to come to the league and had to make that decision.
Really?
Once you are established in your career, sometimes you get a lot of calls from, headhunters looking for talent to go move somewhere else. So for me, being in the marketing world, I would get calls often about joining a different company or a leadership position that they had in an organization. So there were calls that I was used to getting. This particular call was interesting because, the gentleman who called me, I knew very well. And he said, hey, we have this fabulous opportunity to lead, a very big brand. And I said, I already lead very big brands. I mean, I was leading Pepsi, Fritos, Doritos, like they're big recognizable brands. And PepsiCo is one of the biggest Fortune 500 companies. So I had no reason
around the globe.
Yeah, I had no reason to leave. So I said, I don't think so. I said, maybe I had at the time 5 brands that I would probably leave PepsiCo for. The things you keep in the back of your head. If I ever get this call, and he says to me, well, is the NFL one of the brands? And I said, the NFL as in the National Football League? He's like, yes. And that's when I said, oh, okay, I really should consider this call. I never, like I said, never in a million years thought that I would end up here. I considered the call, went ahead and did the interviews. And the beginning, it was just, I was just curious. I wanted to see what the NFL would recruit for, what the interview process would be like. I was just curious, but then curiosity turned into, some really interesting conversations that I had with the league about what they were looking to do, how they were looking to really change the face of the brand, evolve it, make it more inclusive. And it was something that really appealed to me. And I have to say, and hand it to Tim Ellis, Tim is a very persuasive individual, very charismatic, very persuasive. And he put a good case in front of me for joining the league. And so it was a very, very tough decision, but, one that I decided to take.
That is incredible. I mean, but it shows that your work ethic and your performance throughout the years, I mean, it so many people noticed.
Yeah, I mean, people definitely, are watching. And over time, I mean, I had a long career at that point in marketing. So, had been in many forums and people knew the work that I had done. So, it was a matter of time where they came and said, hey, come do that work at the league. And very, very difficult decision.
And what has been your most exciting opportunities so far? Some things that you've been able to put in your own style and your own, like how you've been able to transform things that the NFL is doing with your campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was hired to change the face of the league, right? The league needs to evolve to be relevant in the future. And when you take a look at, the demographic changes in our country, the future is becoming much more multicultural. driven by communities like the Latino community. Women are a big part of the sport.
That's right.
And so, knowing that we have to stay relevant in the future to continue to grow as a brand, we had to do things a little bit differently in terms of marketing. And, Tim had that vision. He recruited a great team of talent to really grow and go and uncover that phase of the league. We have a strategy called Helmets Off that really talks a lot about, it literally takes the helmets off our players and shows them in a more human light. We want to be much more human, approachable, modern and youthful. And I think the work that we've done over the last 3 years has really done that and really engaged a new type of fan base.
Yes, and it's been very noticeable for the fans. During last year's NFL draft, I personally really loved how there was a focus on the families, and there were interviews done with the parents, and really showed like how much their son, going into the NFL was just like transforming their families' lives, and how much of commitment that the parents had to make, to be there.
Yes, for sure.
So I guess this was part of one of your campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot to engage and bring the Latino fan base into the fold as part of the NFL.
Right. And of course, that Super Bowl commercial, the infamous one with the Latina that was running through and like nobody could catch her.
Yeah, that was, So we told the story of Diana Flores, who is the captain and quarterback of the Mexican national flag football team. And she has such an incredible story. We wanted to make sure that we featured her and told the story of how women are also making changes and strides in the league. Flag football is a big part of the sport and growing the sport. And it's bringing, more and more women into the mold, more and more young people into the mold, into the fold. And so, it's something that we definitely like to support.
Right. Because, as women, we are the biggest consumers in our households.
Yes.
I know we're the ones who make those financial decisions, what we buy, and then we'll go buy not only, one, but we buy like the entire family, the jerseys and the helmets and the shoes and everything. Right.
Yes.
So can you talk about self-advocacy? Because, it's so important, especially as women, to advocate for ourselves. And sometimes we're uncomfortable doing that. So what kind of strategies did you have in your career to know like when it was time to seize that opportunity and make a move?
Yeah, I mean, things happen over time. I was very fortunate that I had an incident very early in my career that taught me, to speak up for myself. It was my first job at P&G. I was living in San Juan, Puerto Rico at the time.
Oh, I'm Puerto Rican and Cuban.
Oh, are you? Yeah,
Yes.
I was living in San Juan and I traveled. I was traveling back and forth to the Dominican Republic, and I had my very first campaign for Downy, for the fabric softener. And I had to meet the agency that I was going to work with on this campaign. And when we got to the agency, and I walk into this room, it was a room full of men, Dominican men in this agency. And the head of the agency came up to me at the time and basically said, hi, Marissa, this is my assistant, Susie. Why don't you two ladies go have a cafecito while us men talk business? Oh. And, I was, I think, 22, 23 years old at the time. And, you don't know what to do. I mean, I looked at my boss who didn't really do anything. He didn't say anything. He was just quiet. And, you're scared and you're shaking and this is happening to you. And it was in that moment that I said, okay, no one else is going to speak up for me. So I have to speak up for myself. So I had to tell the person, I'm sorry, but this is my campaign. So I'm going to have to stay in the room, if you don't mind.
Right to be here just as much as you do.
Well, not just every right. I mean, I was the client. I was leading the campaign. And so, yeah, definitely had to do that. And I wish I could say that, everything was wonderful after that. It was actually very awkward. And we had some very awkward meetings and moments subsequent to that. But I think eventually, they realized I wasn't going anywhere. And we made it a working relationship and it worked out. But I think the important part for me being that young is just, realizing that you have to claim your own seat at the table. No one's going to give it to you. No one's going to open the door, if you will. You kind of have to do it for yourself and always be on the lookout for the opportunities, but also when someone's trying to close the door in your face, make sure that you kind of put the hand up. No, that's not right.
I love that. You have to be fearless and believe in yourself.
Yes.
As you know, this is a financial empowerment podcast.
Yes.
And I mean, you must be in charge of a very large marketing budget. Can you give some tips and advice? Because sometimes women, get a little bit intimidated by the numbers, and, what can you say to help encourage them to own it, to, get educated on the finances to help them thrive in their careers?
Yeah. I mean, I'll talk a little bit about career, of course, but I'll talk personally too, because I think it's very important. I've always, as a marketer, had to manage big budgets, from the beginning, when you're running a marketing campaign, when you're having to buy media, it's a big responsibility, and you are dealing with a big amount of dollars. And I think, from an early age, you learn, to set goals, to set the right KPIs, right? So that you're measuring that investment, so that you're getting the return on your investment. So all those things you learn in your career as you go. You learn from others. Eventually, you start managing a small budget. And then once you prove that, you get the return, they give you more money and more money and more money until you're managing the whole thing. Because over time, you prove that you're able to manage that money and invest it in the right places and get the right return. So that's all, nicely said and done. And I think you can learn it. I think what I've found, though, over time is that a lot of us are wonderful at managing our business budgets, right? Okay, this is my corporate budget. But not always does that go back to your personal life and your personal finances. And I don't know why that is.
Yes.
We tend to feel intimidated by our own, whether it's our own earnings or
we don't
prioritize
it.
We don't.
Right. We prioritize it when I'm responsible for this at work. I owe it to my clients. I have to, but then in our own personal lives, we seem to, we not give it the same attention that it needs.
Yeah. And it's very, very important. And, for me at first, it was just about budgeting, right? Setting my own personal budget. I had the fortune of marrying my husband very early. We've been married 27 years. And so we kind of started together. We started with nothing together. And so we have both been very, very conscious of making sure that, we always live within our means, but that we're as we are managing our budget, that we're looking ahead and thinking, how to grow that nest egg. And I think that's really important. So personally, just a few tips, starting at a young age, we actually hired a financial advisor very early. I think we were still in our 20s and we didn't have much, but we were both working for Procter & Gamble at the time. So, it was a decent salary that each of us were making. And we wanted to consciously start to save and invest. And we knew retirement was a long way off. But, we had people that would constantly say, hey, you want to make sure you save for retirement. So that's the first reason why we hired an advisor. But over time, it became, hey, what are your life's goals? Over time, what do you want to do? And it was, from buying a car to buying your first home to we're having kids, eventually we want to send those kids to college to, just many, many different things. And so I think, having that advisor has helped us. And I think over time, first it was about saving, right? Save enough money to have your foundation. And then it became about not just saving, it became about investing. And here's the thing about the Latino community, because nobody tells you this. My mom never told me this.
No, especially when you're first generation.
Yeah, when you're first generation, you know, and you come into wealth, you don't know what to do with it. And one thing is to spend it and have great things, but another thing is to invest it and build and start to own and start to kind of build your wealth. And that's very, very important. And, you know, to this day, I'm still trying to, you know, make sure that the legacy I leave behind is also a legacy of wealth, right? For my daughter, for those that come after. And that means that, you know, it's not just your job. You're looking around for opportunities. You're looking to invest in businesses. And, you know, it's really, really important to make sure that you have and make those choices and be aware of those possibilities.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love it. You couldn't, this is what I preach every day. This is exactly what I talk about.
Super, super important. You know, I'll tell you a story about, it was very, very tough to leave PepsiCo because, you know, PepsiCo is a wonderful company. And not only was it wonderful for my career and all the people I knew there, but it's no secret that, I mean, they pay very well. When you have been in a company like PepsiCo, you know, for many years, you know, you're well taken care of. You have your salary, you get bonuses, you have stock options. I mean, there's a lot. And so it's very, very difficult to leave that.
It is. I was with Chevron for 22 years. That also paid very well and had great benefits.
Yeah.
Annual bonuses and all those things. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you don't really realize all that you have, you know, when you work for a big company like that. It was hard to leave because I wasn't sure that I was ready to leave that security, that financial security. Of course, then, you know, the league came in and I remember, you know, when I first got that offer from the league, I mean, we were crying. The offer, you know, was a great offer. And it was, I had a number in my head. You know, you should always have a number in your head. I had a number in your head. You know, that number was there and I was very happy. But something told me, hey, I need to double check and just make sure I do my due diligence and make sure that this is the right thing for me and for my future. And I actually had our financial advisor take a look at the offer and give us advice on, you know, whether it was good, bad, what we needed to do. And it was the best thing I ever did because, you know, even though it was a large number, there were things that we weren't thinking about that he made sure that we did. You know, we had to move to New York. It's a higher cost of living city. There's more taxes. There's a lot of things that you just don't think about life and cost of living and investing. And so he was very instrumental in me really evaluating those numbers in a true financial way to make sure I went back and asked for the right things that were going to set me up for the future. Because it's not just about, okay, you know, I'm giving you $100 and you're like, yes, $100. Yes. It really is about, wait, like, is that really enough to set you up for success? You know, are you going to be able to grow that? What is the whole picture? And so we don't think about that a lot of the time. And that's important.
Well, I'm so happy that you shared this because, you know, as we know, Latinas make 55 cents on the dollar compared to white males. I mean, so you had to get in there and negotiate and ensure that you're getting paid what your value is, because it takes us so much longer to ever be on that equal playing field.
Yes. I mean, I think knowing your value is critical. And that's not just a number you make up. You know, you have to go and actually get the information, you know, from others to say, okay, this is how you're valued in the marketplace. And then from that, you know, then have your number and know what you're worth and go make sure you advocate for yourself and ask for that.
Yes. Love it. Okay. Well, Marissa, before the end of every episode, I always love to ask our guests, what are you dreaming bigger about next?
It's no secret. I have big dreams. I've always had big dreams. And so, they come in phases. I mean, at the NFL, we have big dreams. We want to be a global sports platform. And so as we go global and expand globally, I have a dream that I'm going to be part of that global expansion and that a lot of the work that my team does will be instrumental in making the NFL global. So that's kind of my short-term dream. And I have a, long-term dream. I mean, I still hope to maybe be that ambassador one day, hope to write a book and tell my story. And then definitely hope to, enjoy some of the fruits of that labor and travel the world with my husband and watch my daughter graduate college and all those great things that, make life as cool as it is. Right. So yeah, those are some of the big dreams that I have right now.
Thank you. And I think it's amazing to see how you wanted to be that global ambassador, but you are that global ambassador.
In a way, yes.
NFL.
It all comes full circle.
Yes.
It all comes full circle.
Yes. Oh, really enjoyed hearing your story. And I mean, we're all here rooting for you. And you're doing such incredible, amazing things to transform the NFL and to ensure that all of our voices are heard, that representation is, because it's so important and it matters so much. And so thank you for blazing trails for all of us.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This is great.
Thank you.